What's cracking, everyone? Today we're going to be breaking down the first ever UFC on ESPN card. It's a very stacked card. This is what you will call a juicy card. It's been already 3 weeks since the last UFC, so definitely ready for a UFC card, especially this one this stacked. The first fight I'm going to be breaking down and giving my predictions on is Bilal Muhammad versus Geoff Neal. I'm sorry if I said Muhammad's name wrong, but yeah, I've seen Muhammad fight a few times, and I'm drawing a blank against who he fought against, but he got a no contest in one, and then he got knocked out in the other, and then he's gonna be fighting Geoff Neal. His last fight, man, you could see he has power. He fought Frank Camacho, and if you never seen that fight, just check it out on Fight Pass. I don't want to ruin the finish for you guys, but just explosive finish. Geoff Neal has crazy power. I believe this fight's probably going to go into the second or third round. Just seeing how Neal fights, he seems to pick up as he goes, and that's when his combinations and his percentages starts to pick up. I believe he'll beat Muhammad. I think he'll be just one step ahead of Muhammad the whole time. I think he'll get a third round finish or a dominant decision win over Muhammad. The next fight I want to talk about, I'm very interested in, is Joanne Calderwood versus Ariane Lipski. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of Joanne Calderwood, so I'm always going to be rooting for her. But this fight is so exciting because if you've never seen Lipski fight, go check her fight out on YouTube, where she fought in KSW for the belt. Man, you could just see that that's just one exciting girl. She always gives, every punch she throws is just what bad intentions. Everything's full power. And, you know, she's a champion of KSW, which is a big Russian organization. They have crazy events in front of like 50, 60,000 people. So, you know, she's been under the bright lights, and she can handle the pressure. This fight, it could go either way. It depends on how, who implements their game plan first. I believe Joanne Calderwood might have a advantage on the feet, but then it's hard to say because seeing how Lipski throws 100% power into everything, I think Joanne Calderwood, Joanne Calderwood is going to have to survive the storm of Lipski, because Lipski brings that storm that you're gonna have to survive, because after watching her fights, you could just tell that that's her game plan always, is just to come in and put her will on the other fighter. If it gets to the ground, I believe Joanne will have an advantage, especially seeing JoJo 2.0 in her last fight, where she got a crazy last second submission. She was getting top controlled the whole round, and then with like 2 seconds left, there was about 15 seconds left, she locked up a triangle, maybe 20 seconds left, she locked up a triangle and then switched it to a triangle armbar and got the tap, her first ever submission. So I believe she's gonna have a grappling advantage if it gets to the ground. Yeah, so at the end of the day, I see Joanne Calderwood winning this fight. I think she just has to survive the storm that Lipski brings in the first and second round, because it's a hell of a storm to deal with. So if she survives the storm, I believe Joanne Calderwood would get the win. I'll say by decision, unanimous decision. On to the next fight, which is going to be the main event for the prelims. That's going to be on the ESPN channel, not the ESPN Plus app. Oh yeah, just to get it out of the way, this is how this works, if you guys were wondering, because I was confused in the beginning at first too. So the early prelims are going to be on the ESPN Plus card, and the main card is going to be on the ESPN Plus app. So the main card and the early prelims will be on the app, and the regular prelims will be on the channel ESPN. So if you guys are trying to watch Donald Cerrone fight, which I'm sure everybody wants to, you're going to have to go on the ESPN channel, not the app. So just clear that up. Let's get into Donald Cerrone versus Alexander Hernandez. This is an amazing fight, but don't think it should be happening. I think whoever's in Donald Cerrone's corner should just let him know, like, hey, man, like, I don't know. somebody in his corners is not doing his job. They should tell him to like take smarter fights, take bigger fights. You know what I mean? Because this is Cerrone's. I think it's gonna be his third attempt at getting a title shot. He says he wants to fight Khabib after his last win against Mike Perry. Now, if that's your plan, you would think you would want to get a win over Pettis or somebody in the top 5. You know what I mean? Not a young hop and coming prospect who is Alexander Hernandez, who's just running through people, and undefeated prospect who is hungry, also wants the same goal, which is that belt. I just don't think it's a smart decision. I think somebody should have sat Cowboy down and just said, hey man, let's just take a different fight. But respect to Alexander Hernandez, because he realized that, and he said in the press conference how he realizes that this fight would never happen if it wasn't for Cerrone just being the type of guy who he is and accepting any fight, anywhere, anybody. So now we got that out of the way. My prediction, oh man, I think Cerrone's going to have definitely a grappling advantage for sure. Now the stand-up, that's where it gets dicey, because obviously Cerrone has experience, amazing kicking, amazing striking, but you can see where when people have that like confidence with the boxing, he kind of gives Cerrone problems. The Masvidal fight, the Nate Diaz fight, you can see it where if they have that striking confidence, like they give Cowboy problems. And one thing I did not like that I heard Cowboy say at the press conference, which I'm hoping he's just, he's lying just to make Alexander Hernandez think this, but Donald Cerrone said that he hasn't watched any tape on Hernandez and that he doesn't know who he is. Before the fight was announced, he had no clue who he is, and to this day he hasn't like watched his fights or anything. Now, he could be lying, because I remember Cerrone said he changed that way after he fought, I believe when he fought Mike Perry. That was the first fight where he like went into it like breaking down and watching clips of the fighter. Because as we all know, when Donald Cerrone fought either Masvidal or Darren Till, one of those two, he was asked the same question if he knows who this fighter. I believe it was Darren Till. He was asked if he knew who the fighter was and if he watched clips on him, and Donald Cerrone said, nope, I just know he likes to strike, and I like to strike too, so let's get it. And that's pretty much the same thing that Cerrone said here. Nope, I don't know who he is, and I haven't looked the clips on him. I hope Cerrone's joking, and he's just saying that to make Hernandez believe that. Because if he hasn't looked up clips and, try to break down a way to beat Alexander, I could see Alexander pulling the upset and making his name known in this lightweight division and beating Cerrone by a quick finish. And I think if Hernandez does win, he's going to start Cerrone. I think it's going to be very quick. But you got to go with the experience and the skill set. It's Donald Cerrone. If Donald Cerrone is on his game, and this is another big X factor that I forgot to just mention. Donald Cerrone is coming back to lightweight after 2 or I believe 3 years in welterweight. 2016 he went to welterweight. So and he went to welterweight because he doesn't like the weight cut of lightweight. You know what I mean? And that's another big X factor. Like, I'll get into it later in this video. The big X factor, this whole fight night card, is going to be how people do from the weight cuts. That's like the major X factor of this whole card. So, my final prediction, Cerrone has a good weight cut. He's Cerrone's Cowboy. No jitters. I believe he will teach the young buck Alexander Hernandez what's real, you know what I mean? And that Cowboy's here still to stay. So I think Cowboy Cerrone will get a third round finish, or a second round finish, probably by submission. I see that his grappling is going to be the biggest advantage, and he will expose Hernandez on the ground. So that's my final prediction for that fight. Cerrone will win via second round or third round submission. Now we're on to one of the most hyped fights on this card, which is Paige Van Zandt versus Rachel Ostovich. So many stuff to talk about this fight. Let's just get the obvious out of the way. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's in the past, but I gotta talk about it, especially since I just seen more information and clips about the whole situation, the whole Paige VanZant, the whole Rachel Ostovich situation. Sorry, got the name mixed up. The whole Rachel Ostovich situation with the domestic violence. It's terrible. It's so terrible, especially since I was just watching the clips on YouTube where the audio was leaked of, I believe, a neighbor was hearing the whole situation going down, and you could just hear Rachel pleading for her ex-husband or her divorced husband to stop, and he's just saying out crazy shit like "I'm gonna murder you," and that just breaks my heart to hear that. Somebody, how can you hate somebody so much that you want to put your hands on him and it's your wife? I can never understand that. I think he's a piece of shit. Makes me want to fight him myself, even though he's a pro MMA fighter. It's terrible. But that just shows you how tough Rachel is. How can you not want to root for this woman? She's just trying to show, she still wants to take the fight, even though she's not trying to let this stop her career. She's not trying to let this hold her back. All respect to her. Rachel is one of my favorite women MMA fighters, and just even more respect for me for her showing toughness, and then props to Rachel for not, having no problem with fighting on the same card as Greg Hardy, which is a whole nother situation I don't even want to get into. But yeah, I love Rachel. That's all props to her for staying strong and still continuing with the fight and wanting to show us this is not going to bring her down. And then plus she's brought attention to this situation where other people came out to her, then they're going through the same domestic violence situations, and it's connecting people, and it's good. And the situation was bad, but what she's making of it is very good, and all the respect to her that she's still fighting and what she's doing. Now on to the actual breakdown of the fight. Rachel Ostovich versus Paige VanZant. Amazing fight. It should be very action-packed. Two people that just always, they always go for it. You don't see them ever really in a stalemate fight or kind of a boring fight. They're always going for it, always trying to find a way to win. I'm gonna start off with Paige. Paige, she's got the good kicks, and you can see in her fights, especially with Rose Namajunas, that Paige got hard. She's not gonna tap, even if you're about to rip her arm off. She's not gonna tap. She's not gonna give up. You can see in her last fight too, where she broke her forearm. I believe she didn't give up, went to the decision. So that's the big perk that Paige has is she got heart. She's never gonna give up. She's not gonna tap. She's got the kicks. She's got the moves to disrupt Rachel on the feet. But then vice versa, Rachel got the move set to give Paige problems on the ground. So it's one of those things where who implements their game plan first, because I think Paige is going to want to come out more striking heavy, and I think Rachel is going to want to come out more grappling heavy. And at the end of the day, I think the grappling advantage is going to be too much for Paige. I think Rachel's going to pull off a submission probably in the first or second round. I'm really confident. I think her jiu-jitsu will be too much for Paige. So at the end of the day, I'll see Rachel Ostovich getting the win by first or second round submission. It's going to be an amazing fight. And one to follow it up, which is another amazing fight, which I'm going to be probably talking about forever. It's going to be Yancy Medeiros versus Gregor Gillespie. What a fucking fight. This fight is probably going to be fight of the night. Mark my words, I can't see how this fight won't be action-packed. Hey, but we said that about Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, so we could be wrong. But yeah, like I said, I can't see this fight being boring. This Yancy Medeiros always come into war. He always gives it all. I love when he fights. If Yancy's fighting, I'm definitely watching. He's one of my favorite fighters. He just got that Hawaiian heart that you can't teach. Always puts on a show. He's going to be fighting Gregor Gillespie, who's a lightweight prospect right now that's up and coming, who's got a lot of hype. The way he's finishing people, his ground game is vicious. You see the way he puts pressure on people on the ground, and then his ground and pound is very vicious. Gregor Gillespie definitely, I believe, has the grappling advantage. So if it goes to the ground, I could see it being a rough night for Yancey. But like I said earlier in the video, how the big X factor of this whole card is going to be weight cuts. This is another thing. Yancey, I don't know if he's going to have a good weight cut. He's seeming in shape. I've seen a picture he posted on Instagram. He looks good in shape, happy, but you never know, because that's the reason. Because the main reason why Yancey left lightweight is because he couldn't take a shot because of the weight cut. The weight cut was just being too much on him. And you could see when he went up to welterweight, even though he was fighting bigger people, he could take shots way better and having these crazy wars coming back even though he's getting rocked. So if Yancey doesn't have a bad weight, if Yancey has a bad weight cut and he can't take a shot as good, oh man, I could see Gregor putting it on him on the ground and finishing him with strikes. But I'm gonna go off the fact that Yancey's gonna be having a good weight cut, and he's Yancey, you know, Killer Yancey Medeiros from welterweight, and I can see Yancey pulling it off. I'm gonna go with Yancey Medeiros for the upset, giving Gregor Gillespie's his first loss, taking that O away. I think Yancey will get it done by a third round finish. I think eventually the overwhelming pressure and constant volume, the heart never giving up of Yancey is gonna eventually wear it down on Gregor, and I think he's gonna get the finish in the late third round. So I got Yancey Medeiros by a third round finish due to TKO strikes. And we're on to the co-main event, which I don't want to talk too much about because I don't know too much about one of the fighters, and also I just don't want to talk about Greg Hardy just because I believe he's not the best of people for obvious reasons. So we got Greg Hardy versus Alan Crowder, co-main event. A lot of people are questioning the fact that the UFC put Greg Hardy as the co-main event, especially over somebody like Donald Cerrone. So there's already controversy for that, plus the controversy of him being on the same card as Rachel. Greg Hardy, what can you say about him? He's crazy athletic from what you can see in the fights. He's a former football player, so he's got those attributes. And his fights, they've been ending real quick, and they're not against high-level people. Not necessarily high-level, but high-name people. So you can't really take too much from the fights, besides the fact that he has power, and when he connects, people go to sleep. Now, the big X factor is just like how good are the people he's fighting, you know what I mean? And what happens when it goes to the later rounds, because we're seeing all these fights end in the first round. The Contender Series fight, first round finish. Quick. I think he barely got touched in that fight, and then he didn't get signed there, fought a few more times on some other regional promotions, but they're all first round finishes, I believe. So there's a big question mark on Greg Hardy when it gets to the later rounds. So who knows? And then Alan Crowder, I'll be lying to you guys if I said I knew anything about him. I do not. I haven't seen one of his fights. I've heard that he came from the Contender Series, I believe. That's about it. That's all I know. So I'm going to be going off just what I know. I think Greg Hardy is going to get the finish probably quick, just judging by his last fights, how they go. So yeah, I think Greg Hardy is going to get the finish probably by first round knockout, probably very quick. And we're on to the main event, which is an awesome super fight, an awesome way to kick off this year for UFC, which is Henry Cejudo versus TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw is going to be coming down to flyweight to challenge Henry Cejudo, take his belt, try to be a champ. Awesome. I love seeing these fights happen, you know what I mean? Especially when, like, the whole TJ and DJ thing, that was cool to hear, but there was so much talk about it, and it never happened. There was all this hype, but never happened. As soon as there was talk about this, they made it happen, which I like. You know, there wasn't a whole waiting around for months, wondering if it's going to happen, wondering if it's not, back and forth, negotiating. As soon as there was talk about it, they made the deal done, which is cool. What keeps the hype up, I believe. Like I said earlier in the video, though, the big X factor is the weight cuts for these fighters, and TJ Dillashaw, let's see if he has a good weight cut. He's saying he's feeling good, but I'm sure if he was feeling bad, he wouldn't say he's feeling bad. So let's see. He's obviously looking like he's at the front door of death. If you look at his Instagrams, I can't believe how he looks in those pictures. He looks so sucked in, but hey, you know what I mean? He says he could do it. He's very confident that he could make the weight on dot, so let's see. So my point of view is going to be coming off of that. If TJ makes weight and he's normal Dillashaw, so that's what that's how my breakdown is going to be coming from. That point of view, that he's good, good weight cut. He's Dillashaw, normal himself. I think if he's him normal self, he's Dillashaw, he should make pretty easy work of Cejudo, because his striking and movement is just leaps and bounds ahead of Cejudo's, in my opinion, and many others. So I believe TJ Dillashaw will beat Cejudo pretty handily, but there's always that X factor with Cejudo, which is wrestling. Like in the last fight with Mighty Mouse, shocking the way he could just keep somebody who's as squirrely as as Mighty Mouse, you know what I mean? You see every time Mighty Mouse gets taken to the ground, you see how he just scrambles so quick and he finds a way up. And only, I think, once or twice was he able to get up from Henry, and the other times Henry held him down and Mighty Mouse couldn't do nothing, which was crazy to see. So, which other people might find that boring, but it's crazy to see when you know what that person's capable of and they're holding them down like that. And I won't be surprised if, you know what I mean, if he could hold down TJ for a little while, because if he was able to hold down somebody as maneuverable and squirrely as DJ, I mean, then I believe he could do it at TJ if he finds the right entering to, you know what I mean, to take him to the ground. But it's like, the way I see this fight playing out, even if he takes him to the ground, I can't see it being one of those situations where he just rides out rounds, because I don't see him dropping bombs, you know what I mean? That's not really Henry's style, where he drops bombs and brutal ground and pound. He's not a Khabib type of wrestler. He's more of a hold position, you know what I mean? And then when the opportunity presents itself, then, you know, drop a couple punches here and there and then go back and hold, you know what I mean? So yeah, even if he gets TJ down, I don't see him posing too much of a damage trouble with strikes. And I see eventually, if he does get him down, TJ just finding a way to get up, and the striking is just going to be too much, because every fight starts on his feet. That was the whole X factor with the McGregor fight. You know, McGregor has a chance because every fight starts on his feet, and that's how I feel about this one, I think. But this is more so, like, I'm confident in TJ more so than the whole Khabib and Conor situation, because I believe even if, like I said, if Henry gets him down, I don't see him posing too much of a trouble to TJ with damage. Just hold. So it's a tough one to pick, but I'm gonna be going off the assumption that it's TJ Dillashaw, good weight cut, and he's Dillashaw. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with TJ Dillashaw. I think he's gonna get it done within. For some reason, I have a feeling it's gonna be quick. I mean, not like quick, crazy quick, but like within the first 2 rounds, because, like I said, the fights start on standing on the feet, and I think just the leap and bounds advantage of striking that TJ has is going to be too much. So yeah, I have a feeling for about second round TKO finish for TJ Dillashaw. He's going to be champ. That's my prediction. I could be wrong though. Alright guys, that's my prediction for this amazing card. I want to know if anybody else is as happy as I am for having a card, because it's been what? Like I said, 3 weeks since the last fight, 3-4 weeks. So, you know, the real fight fans have been waiting for a card, and this is a real good card. Hope nobody, everybody makes weight, nobody pulls out, and everything goes smooth, and we have an awesome night of fights this Saturday. All right, guys. Next video will probably be on Sunday or Saturday night. Which will be my reaction to how the fights go. So thank you guys. If you watched the video all the way to the end, you should give a like and a subscribe. You're a real one for watching all the way to the end, guys.